He said, we dug our own grave with the Tesla Cybertruck. Yo. I mean, maybe you should have thought about that when you said it had bulletproof glass and a golf ball shattered it. Big news. So the Corvette's here, and they made a hybrid. Hey, you like cars? Well, so do I. Take a seat real quick. You're listening to CarQuicks. I'm back. It's me again. See, last episode, I wasn't gone. You just only heard the audio. There's no video. I wasn't there with my presence. But now I'm back. It's CarQuicks. Let me just get this crack. Let me get this cracking. You know what time it is. Episode 31, season 1, CarQuicks. That's what happens when you don't pay attention, kids. Because it ain't episode 31. You know why? Because I did episode 31. It's episode 32. Now we can get back to the action. Because what was I thinking? My bad. Episode 32, CarQuicks, season 1. Now let's begin. Yes. Yeah, I missed that. That's my little thing. Not every podcast has a little movie scene thing. I know it's not a movie, but maybe it's a movie. I don't know how you want to go about it. But I'm back now. Glad to see you. How's everybody doing out there? Doing great. How's your family, your friends, your colleagues? How's the car world treating you? SEMA's around the corner. SEMA is around the corner, and everybody I know is doing the SEMA crunch, which I find the SEMA crunch hilarious because what I want to know is what y'all were doing all year. Okay, SEMA's coming. It comes every year in November, the first week, and every single year I see folks 2 to 3 days out or hours before in the parking lot throwing alternators and engines into chassis, trying to make it to the show. What were we doing all year before the SEMA show? Now, not everybody's like this, but I do think, in my weird theory tinfoil hat, I think a lot of that whole SEMA crunch is a part of marketing. It's like a trend. When you have like YouTube or Instagram, it's like SEMA crunch, 2 weeks out, SEMA time, cars on, stilts. It's on a chassis jig. They're like, is it going to be ready in time? Is the paint going to dry? Are the parts from Japan going to be overnighted? See, that's what I find funny. Like all the ones I follow, all the companies, it's like every single build is like down to the wire already. And we're not even like a week out. 3 days out is going to be nuts. Folks is going to be out there talking about all-nighters. They're going to be putting paint. They're going to be spray painting the car in the trailer as they drive to the SEMA show. It's going to be nuts. But we're not here to talk about the SEMA show this episode. Probably next couple weeks when the show is on and it's going on and all the YouTube videos are out, I'm going to start speaking more on to what that show was like and what they did and everything they had going on, because I love the SEMA show. I haven't gone to it, haven't been to it. It's an industry thing. I run a podcast, not probably big enough for them to really care. It's not like I'm smoking tire, but I'm going to get there. So just you hold on to your britches. I'm going to be there. So I haven't been invited to it, nor do I have like the credentials to get in. Even I probably could, sneak into the show. It's really not that critical of an event, but one day I'll get there. But in the meantime, in between time, when the episode comes about SEMA's, because the show just ended or is happening right now. But we got some other news. We got other stuff that happened. We got things that are happening in the, world of sports cars. Really big news for one that I'm probably going to spend the most time on. So I'm probably going to kind of start off with the small things, right? Here's something, right? Elon Musk is hilarious, right? This dude's hilarious. I mean, like, he truly is a comedian because he's running around telling everybody now, and I quote, let me get the quote up because the quote is pretty hilarious considering the fact that I would say a good majority of people called something similar about this when it came to the Cybertruck, because the Cybertruck, it's not necessarily vaporware, okay, but it's close, okay, it's close. He says, and I quote, he said, "We dug our own grave with the Tesla Cybertruck." Yo, I mean, maybe you should have thought about that when you said it had bulletproof glass and a golf ball shattered it. Or maybe when everybody was talking about the panels being misaligned and all other types of foolery when it came to making the truck, which, I mean, at the time it was revealed, it was so shocking. It was like, cool, right? But then it took so long to come out that I guess everybody like kind of, the shock and all wore off. We're all kind of sat back and looked at it again and we're like, nah, this is not going to age well. This is going to age as bad as past due goat milk. Like this design is not going to hold the test of time. It just won't. It may kind of fall into the whole, it's abstract to, I don't know. I don't want to say to a fault. Let's just say it's abstract and it's always going to be in your face. So maybe that's what's going to make it cool and make it last a number of years. I've said it before. Once we get another color or somebody wraps it something else, it's probably going to be more acceptable to the public eye than it is now. But what he's alluding to isn't the fact that they made the Cybertruck and it's going to bankrupt them. He's talking about scaling it up to a degree where it would make sense, because he's still doing battle with the kings of the trucks, the GMC Sierras, the Silverados, the F-150s, the Dodge Rams, the Ram trucks now, not Dodge anymore, the Toyota Tundras. I mean, you're doing battle with the companies that sell more trucks than anybody sells of cars. And now we enter into this EV one, which now you have competition already out here selling trucks. Rivian has their truck out. It is in the hands of owners. Now, Rivian also is saying that they're losing money hand over fist. I don't even know. Like, honestly, these electric car companies and how they even manage to say we're losing money, but we're still getting investment, sounds like the NFT scam. Okay, it sounds like good old whatever, cryptocurrency exchange got half, FX or whatever it was. Okay, it sounds like that. Like a Ponzi scheme. How are we actively losing money per car, building different cars, charging absolutely crazy price tags, $100,000, $90,000, $80,000. And the repairs are costing crazy. Some person in the UK, or forgot what island they're on, maybe they're in Ireland or Netherlands, has a Model 3 they found out had been leaking or having water damage on the battery because it had been sitting out in a rainstorm. And they're like, we ain't covering that. That's $21,000. That's the whole car. Okay. At $21,000, it's totaled, right? Like, what are we really talking about? Who's going to really cough up 21 grand on a car that costs 38? Like, that's 3/4 of the price of the value. Like, that's crazy. Like, what's happening around here? So Elon, the Cybertruck, deliveries for the Cybertruck are set to take place sometime next month. It was supposed to happen this month. It was supposed to happen 2 years ago. But now it's next month. It's going to happen. Somebody's going to get it. I mean, I live in the state that they build these things. So I know for a fact I'm going to see one at a Coffee and Cars event, somewhere at some event, because whoever gets the first delivery is going to be running around trying to get all the hype and all the love or hate that they can for it. I mean, the underpinnings of it are not bad. Tesla doesn't make bad drivetrains and ideas. It's just that, like, listen, the jury's still out on the longevity of what it is that we're trying to achieve, not the longevity of the car, because Tesla Model S's have been out for a number of years and people still have them for that long with 100,000 miles or more on it. So next month, we're going to start seeing this trapezoid on wheels running around. Alongside of that, right, it's kind of an EV, and there's a lot of EV news. There's always going to be EV news, right? Like, I'm not saying that that's all I will talk about, but that's really what the exciting area that we're in right now. So Porsche, back again with Porsche. They, like I said, they've been on a run. The person that runs Porsche, Frank Moser, Moser, M-O-S-E-R. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. He talked to the drive.com, which is an excellent website to get automotive news. If you ain't know, now you know. He was talking to one of the editors or people at the drive.com and had a statement that actually is something that I've spoken to and everybody who is building certain type of cars has said. And he said, we don't want to win the championship in electric range because we need to balance the ratio between weight and range. And what he's speaking to is that Porsche already has EVs out. We know that has a Taycan. It has the upcoming EV Macan. They are doing electric vehicles, but he is specifically speaking to the 718 and the 911s, like the two-door true sports cars. They will have a hybrid version of it. We know that's coming out next. It's probably going to be a outrageous performer. The new 911 Turbo or the GT2 RS and the 992, we believe, will have some hybridization on it, similar to the Cup car. But what he's talking about is full EV, full battery. And the issue they have is that the battery technology we have now weighs 900,000 pounds. I mean, I'm exaggerating, but the cars are heavy, right? We're talking about 4,000 to 8,000 pounds for EVs, like the Lucid Sapphire, the one that they've just been testing with like Jason Camisa, another great journalist. He had that for, I believe it was like Motor Trend, and they were testing that car on the track and basically came away and said, this is one of the best performing like sports cars, even though it's a sedan in this category. Like it can outrun a lot of cars. We're talking 9-second quarter miles. I mean, that is big boy territory. So he was talking about how that car outperforms everything, but you also deal with the weight of it, right? These cars weigh a lot. Porsche understands that they're not in it to just make an EV that goes fast in a straight line. They want the experience for the driver and how it interacts with when they're steering and the input and the way it reacts to follow the ethos of a 718 and a 911. Those are two iconic sports cars. Something like the Lucid Sapphire that has all the performance, the numbers back it up. But when you get into a car like that, you still feel like you're in a sedan. It's heavy, it's quiet, it's a luxury car. And so while it can perform, it's still not the same experience. That is always going to be something that lands. It's going to be difficult to quantify for people that do not care about driving cars to that degree, but it lands up here. So for the Porsche, they mentioned that they can't allow the cars to be that heavy. They have to find a balance, meaning when we get to the EV 911, don't expect no 400-mile range. You might get 250, depending on how they can figure out battery technology. When we get to like the graphene batteries, when we get to the true next revolution of battery technology, all this is going to change. When we get to the point where you can have a thin platter that has 400-mile range and weighs an eighth of what they weigh now or a quarter of it, we're really going to get the party started. But right now, we're still using the same batteries that are in a cell phone, that are in any other battery controlled product. It's a lithium ion battery. We haven't gotten to the next revolution of battery technology. And once we do, when that really happens, this is going to be crazy. And so he was speaking to the fact that that's a challenge. They got to deal with regulations for safety, pedestrian safety, technology that owners want to have in the car, new technology, things like that. If you look at an old 911 from like a 90s, a 964 compared to the size of a 992 911, we're like at triple the size. Like it's not even the same car. This thing went on a fast food diet and it completely bloated. It still performs well. It still handles well. It has all the power and the feedback. It's a balance that they have to have between weight to size to all these things that they have to add into the new car. So seeing them talk about that for the EV of Porsche and what not their industry, but what their division in Porsche is thinking of doing, it means that they're paying attention and they care about what that means for the driving part of it, not just the performance. The numbers are easy. Like I said, electric cars, instant torque, everybody throwing up to 0 to 60, 1.9, 2.2, all these wild numbers. But how does it feel to drive? That's the thing. Like you can get fast food. I can get the burger from menu to my bag in my hand in under, 2 minutes. But it's not going to taste the same as if I put the love and the time into, I don't know, breaking down some Wagyu beef and making myself a burger. More time, but the experience is better in the end. If that makes sense. If you're a food person, it makes sense. Okay. If not, then listen, I don't know what to tell you. Get the quarter pounder of cheese. So electrification is coming to almost every manufacturer. Everybody's switching through those, switching, between what they're going to have, what they're going to have for, V8 motors, what they're going to have for hybrids, what they're going to have for V6s, what they're going to have for inline fours. It's a toss up. It goes back and forth. And the industry is accepting of it, right? Like the new Blazer EV is out now or starting to trickle into dealerships. And you already know the shenanigans that have been happening. They already got these things with markups, 5 to 10,000. Now, I'm sure a lot of this has to do with the fact that dealerships know there is some tax credit. So they're going to say, are you going to get $7,500 back? It's no big deal with 5,000, 10,000, little baby money. Ridiculous. So the Blazer EV already is getting markups. It's not as insane as something that did take place in the automotive industry. So we already know about the Nismo Z. I talked about it. I said my piece. I said this is not worth the price tag that they are offering. Some dealership in California has a Nismo Z for $158,000. Let me say that again. $158,000. It's $160,000. Absurdity. I would never. Okay? I don't care on what time of the space-time continuum that I'm sitting in. It's not happening. I could have won the Powerball for 2 point whatever it was. Negative. For the Z. Come on now. Let's be serious here. This is the outrageousness that's happening. Now, of course, online, everybody will say, well, somebody's going to pay for it. I am willing to bet that that's so far above the realm of reasonable idea of a markup to how much time do I have and how much money do I have? Because even if you had the means, why would you 160 for a car that has 20 extra horsepower, different suspension, different, scaffolding in the back, as they used to say on Top Gear, different bracing and stuff? There's no planet in our galaxy where I would be on where an extra $100,000 for a Nissan Z would ever make sense. Do you know what type of Nissan Z you could build if you decided to drop $100K into it? I'm talking about the only one anybody would even talk about. The one, the Neo, the Matrix. 100,000? Craziness. So clearly that's just marketing, right? Honestly, a lot of these dealerships do that because they know it's free press, right? I'm here talking about this random dealership. I don't know the name of it, but they know that they're the only ones that have the audacity to charge $160,000 for a Nissan, that it wasn't a GTR. So they know they're going to get the publicity and the names, and everybody's going to say these people are crazy. And they're going to say, hey, come down and negotiate. And I'm like, okay, sure. I'll negotiate. Let's start at the MSRP. That's where we're going to start. We're not starting at 160 and working our way back. We start at insanity. We're going to stop at insane. The things that happen or the things that these dealerships try to do to just garner feedback or garner notoriety, it's just ridiculous. So that was happening with the Nissan Z. Toyota is back to their games. You already know how Toyota gets down. Toyota might be the master of the teaser, okay? So they're showing up this video. You see it on the screen. This is the latest teaser. We already know what's about to happen. Just prepare yourselves. We got the front end in the shadow. I'm putting my bets that this is a new Camry. Looking at the size of the front end, looking at the headlights, the side view mirrors. This is the new Camry, unless they throw some surprise out there. And some people said a Celica, which I'm like, I don't even really know what that means in the realm of what Toyota would build and where that would land in their lineup. I'm not against them making a Celica and bringing it back. I just fear that it would be an SUV or something. I feel like they would throw the name on something that you're just not expecting, especially not when you're talking about the renowned Celica name. But you already know how this is going to go. Okay, by next week, we might have a cup holder. Then they might show us the trunk. We might get a little seat belt, half a steering wheel, maybe a little bit of an air vent. And then after the 35th week of teasers, we're going to get the whole car. I'm probably going to go check the internet right now because I know somebody's already on the interwebs trying to find out what this looks like. Now, it looks aggressive even from the shadow. And given what the last Camry looked like, I would imagine that's going to take some design element from the Crown, maybe the Crown Sport. Maybe it'll take it from the Prius as far as how the front end and the headlights look. Because listen, if it took something from the Prius as far as how that looked and applied it to a larger sedan, listen, I said it before, they're on a rampage. That would be a winner. There wouldn't even be a question about whether that car is good looking, whether it will sell. Everybody in the sedan world will be looking up, taking notice. Hyundai is not paying attention because their Sonata looks good. They had the Genesis cars. Honda has their Accord, even though they went to the more understated clean look, which is more in line with Honda. So I'm not mad at that. I ain't mad at it. But I want to see what Toyota's about to bring to the table. So we got that teaser, zero information. Okay, don't know. Guaranteed it's probably a hybrid or some form of it when it comes to the motor. Somebody jokingly said maybe it's an all-wheel drive inline turbo for 300 plus horsepower GR Camry. Listen, I'll sell the GR Corolla. Think I'm playing. Nah, I still need the manual. But if they did a GR Camry and really went that crazy, that would be absolutely nuts. Now, outside of the Camry, outside of the Blazer EV I talked about and all the other things that are happening, and I have another topic to talk about after this. Big news. So the Corvette's here, and they made a hybrid. Now, I know what you're saying. You probably spit your coffee out. Probably took your hat that has all the Corvette 50th anniversary emblems and kicked off your New Balances and unbuttoned your Hawaiian shirt and said, "Not on my land." Okay, or something. I don't know. But they made a hybrid. And I'm going to go out here and say this, right? This is very, very dope. Very cool. This isn't like the normal hybrid. I like the fact that they throw that out there just to throw people off because as soon as they hear hybrid, they think Prius. Maybe my Toyota Sienna. It's a hybrid. They just think about something slow, mundane, get me from point A to B without any excitement other than the fact that I can look down and notice that I've been getting 50 miles per gallon. Okay? Most people are not trying to speak to hybrids in that way. But what Chevrolet has done with their new C8, and that is the Corvette E-Ray, should be applauded. It should be spoken about. It should be a sign of what we can do when it comes to hybrid technology trickling down to performance cars that are more accessible. This has the all-wheel drive. This is the first Corvette with all-wheel drive. Basically, the Corvette that probably 90% of everybody's been asking for. We're talking about a Corvette that has rain capabilities. Not that the other one doesn't, but we got all-wheel drive now. We got inclement weather capabilities. Not that the tires don't matter. Because if you're running all summer tires or certain all-season tires, it ain't going to matter if you have all-wheel drive or not when the snow hits. But you won't freak out when a snow flurry hits your windshield. Like now you're going to be like, hey, I'm good. I got the all-wheel drive. So it has all-wheel drive, 655 horsepower, 470 foot-pounds of torque, weighs 3,774 pounds, 3,856 pounds in a convertible, 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds. That's McLaren P1 territory, boys and girls. We have made it. So it's fast, right? That's a given. But what's this all about? Like, what do they do, right? So the chief engineer that's handling the E-Ray, this isn't like some fly-by-night setup, right? Chevrolet has been working on this idea for probably the last decade. Even considering the C8, considering how they built the C8, considering the fact that it has a front end that allows a drive unit from an electrical motor to be put there, they have been working towards this for a number of years. Like, this isn't just something that they just came up with yesterday and said, hey guys, guess what? We're going to throw an electric motor in the Corvette and see what happens. They've been working to engineer this. So the chief engineer comes back from the old GM days from their first electric vehicle, the EV1. I remember the EV1. I remember seeing one. I remember seeing a few drive on the street because there was some program that GM was doing back in the day about giving people EV1s, which it's funny because now if you think about Tesla and how popular electric cars are, starting with Tesla and going on to the other vehicles that are out there now, like the Hyundai Ioniq 5 and other ones from like Chevy Bolt, it's funny to see the fact that that was so long ago that they were like kicking the door down for like electric vehicles. Obviously, it didn't pan out in the way that many would have thought it would pan out as far as like electric vehicles for GM, but they've been there. So the gentleman was running that is still with General Motors, and he's the one that's been on the engineering side of this E-Ray. So the batteries that they use, right? Because that's the main thing. We're talking about batteries, hybrid. What are we doing? The batteries are made by LG. They're like the size of a piece of bread, toast, as they said. I'll throw the picture up there. A small little thing that said 3 of these can jumpstart a whole car, which is pretty nuts. You're talking about these sandwich batteries in. They place these inside of the tunnel where the transmission is, or in between the seats tunnel, similar to what they did with, I don't know what other car, I think it was like a Ferrari or another hybrid like supercar where they did the exact same thing. Put the battery somewhere in the middle of the tunnel. Makes the most sense. It's a 1.9 kilowatt battery. This isn't made in a way where the batteries are the forefront of what this car is trying to do. The electric motor and the batteries are strictly here for performance. They're here to move the needle forward for how this car performs. Let me tell you how they're doing this, right? So standard brakes, we're going to get to that. Standard brakes, carbon ceramic. Obviously, it weighs much more. It's like 260 pounds over the C8. I don't know what it's over when it compares to the Z06, but let's just say around that same ballpark figure. You can get carbon wheels, which, interestingly enough, there's been like new reports or certain episodes or certain podcasts I follow have been talking about carbon fiber wheels and maybe how they aren't as robust as we have thought them to be. I don't know the full story on that. I just know that is something that has been in discussion as of late. But you can get carbon wheels, save another 40 pounds. They cost $14,000. So you really got to sit around and ask yourself how much you really care. Because here's the thing. Though it weighs another 260 pounds, we're still talking about 160 horsepower and the instant torque of an electric motor. It made up for that weight. If not, just go on a diet. Okay, just drop 40 pounds and save yourself $14,000 because that's crazy. I'm sure they look fire, but I don't know if I'm coughing up 14 grand to say I saved 10 pounds per corner. Nobody cares. So transmission is an 8-speed dual clutch transmission, made it to a V8. Now, see, this is where the party gets started, okay? The V8 makes 495 horsepower on its own. You add in the electric motor at 160, we're at 655. You don't lose anything. That is how this is working. See, the electric motor and the battery are there to be the in-between, right? To get you off the line with instant torque when the engine's spinning up. To get you in between the shifts that there's no delay in how it's moving through the speed. Especially if you're talking about highway speed, right? See, 0 to 60 time is easy. 0 to 60, I mean, I don't want to say easy, right? What I want to say is if you're not like a really good driver, you're not hitting those numbers. But the numbers you probably can hit or you can hit all the time is like the highway speeds. The 60 to 80, the 40 to 60, the 70 to 90. That space, from the articles I read, they said it's a freight train. They're like, it moves instantly. That is the type of stuff that you love to hear. You don't really get much of it when it comes to the headlines because you only really get it when you read car magazines. Like Car and Driver will have the 5 to 60, the 30 to 70, the 40 to 60. They'll have that graph of speed because that information there really tells you just how fast some of these cars are. When you really get into that, when them things are doing it in 2 seconds, 3, you're talking about truly fast cars, because that speed there, that's the engine's already going. You already got the inertia, you got the aerodynamics working for you or against you, depending on how the car is shaped. And that is where the true power gets laid down. 0 to 60 is great. Who doesn't love seeing a good 0 to 60 time? But you do need to be a seasoned driver. You're probably on a prepared surface. You need to know what you're doing to achieve that number. So for the C8 E-Ray, or the Corvette E-Ray, I think they're calling this, not the C8 E-Ray. Corvette E-Ray, you got the regular V8, 495 horsepower, as I said, and then you have the electric motor that's mated to it. With this, we get the added performance. So remember back, it's crazy how old the Holy Trinity is, which was the LaFerrari, the McLaren P1, and the Porsche 918 Spider. It's like yesterday, I remember when those cars came out. And one of the big things that they had was that those cars were the first time where you had supercar manufacturers taking hybrid technology that they were using in motorsports and applying it strictly for performance. It had nothing to do with efficiency. They didn't care about you driving around in electric mode, maybe for about 2 or 3 miles. So it was only for the performance. So now we're talking about million plus cars at the time. Now they're worth like 4 million and up, or 2 to 4 million, trickling down to more accessible cars, the Corvette, so to speak. The interesting thing on the C8, I'm gonna keep saying C8. Okay, I'm sorry if it's called E-Ray only. I apologize. So on the E-Ray, they have 2 modes for the hybrid system, right? Because I think when it comes to hybrid inside of a car, I think it does make it more fun when you can tap into that hybrid technology, when I can tap into what the battery's doing and really run it on its own. So they have a stealth mode, and I think the other one's called shuttle. Yeah, I'm looking at my notes right now to make sure I'm reading this correctly. Yeah, the 2 modes are called shuttle and stealth. Now, shuttle is literally only made for you to like move it around the garage or the driveway up to like 15 miles an hour, which, yo, I want to know what garage you got that you can get up to 15 miles an hour, or whatever driveway you're on that allows you to get up to 15 miles an hour. I mean, like, chill, Jeff Bezos, like with the mega mansion. The stealth mode is really the one that most owners are going to talk about. When you're in stealth mode, you start the car, but you don't do the ignition, and you choose what mode you want. So if you choose stealth mode, it allows you to go up to a few miles. I believe it's hit 3 to 4 miles. It might be like 3 to 5. It's not a lot. Like I said, this isn't about you using a battery in all electric mode all the time, but it allows you to leave your neighborhood, leave your family behind and your kids, not wake up the family, sneak out, okay? Get out of the neighborhood, then fire up the engine and go. However, what I did read was that you cannot actually turn that back on after the motor started. That's odd. Not going to lie. In one of the articles I did read, I read like a more technical breakdown. They said that they couldn't do that because you would lose some other creature comforts like AC. I'm not an engineer, okay? I'm not a mechanical engineer, so I'm not going to talk about why I don't think there's any correlation between having access to stealth mode and running on the batteries to having AC. I mean, if I had to give up one, I get it. I'll give up stealth mode. It's too hot where I live to not have AC. You'll die. But when you finally get the motor started, you can go up to 45 miles an hour, and it's really dependent on how you activate the throttle, meaning light on the throttle, it'll stay in EV mode up until the battery's depleted, and then the motor's going to start anyways, or you press down hard enough and it wants to add more power, engine starts up right away. Though after that, you can't get back to it, here's where it's odd. If I'm driving to go get takeout, or let's say I'm driving to go get some fast food, I'll leave out of the house quiet, EV mode, get out the street, engine fires on, I'm out. Get to the place, get my food, turn around, blast back. Then when I hit the neighborhood, I would like to then drop it back on stealth mode again, cruise into the house. Now, maybe they said maybe they're going to work into it, see if it can happen. I think they're going to make it work. I think that'd be a really cool feature because here's the thing. There's always going to be a battle between those that like strictly analog, those like myself that love analog, love technology, and like what the future's coming. So I like the hybrid setup when it's performance based, right? Like I'm not losing no performance. I'm not losing any of the handling. It has magnetic ride, which feels great, feels amazing. So you have the same level of handling. You're not losing the performance. Let's just say you lose a little bit compared to the Z06. Now, the Z06 that's what it's made for. So it's gonna have better feedback. You're gonna feel more of the road. But when it comes to this, it's like a grand tour in a way. Think of this like a Porsche Turbo. Going back to Porsche, like Porsche Turbo, Porsche 911 GT3. Those two cars have different missions. The 911 GT3 is about the driver, it's about feedback, it's about handling. The 911 Turbo is a grand tour. It can handle amazingly and it's incredibly fast. It's an Autobahn driver, right? It's get me from point A to B as fast as you can and comfortably. And I can also jump on the track. I can get down with the best of them. If you have, depending on the driver, the Turbo will beat the GT3. It's not like it's foolproof. And then I can drive it back home. So both of them can do both things. They just have a different bit of a mission. So when it comes to the E-Ray, it has that ability for those different modes. It also has the benefit of having a little bit, a tinge more luxury, right? When I looked at the interior, I could tell that they're adding a little bit more, some carbon fiber and leather and Alcantara in different places. And they're, adding into what it can do, right? And it has a certain price tag. This price starts at $106,000, which is, I told you before, never in the history of automotive have we had this many 100,000 six-figure cars. We are in uncharted territories. So $106,000 to start, right in line with it's cheaper than a 911. Like you can't get even a 992 911. Forget a turbo. You're talking about 200,000. So if we're talking about something with 655 horsepower, same hybrid type technology, we're back to this being, again, one of the best performance bargains, especially how the C8 goes, especially how the Z06 goes. E-Ray is right in line with them. Now, given that there is an E-Ray and there's a Z06, what would CarQuicks choose? It's a good question. I know the Z06. See, the Z06 initially is always going to speak to me because who doesn't love a Z06? I love the C6 one, the C7, the OG, the C4 one. C5 one. Everybody loves the Z06. If you like Corvettes. And I know it's basically, the Z06, that's a track terror, the Apex Annihilator, the Canyon Carver, the back row bomber, that car is made for one thing and one thing only, to basically eviscerate higher exotic cars, performance cars that are priced much higher. But if you gave me the option, if you said E-Ray Z06, I'm being honest, the E-Ray is closer than most people would believe I would say, or I believe most people think others would say. I said, this car delivers 95% of what anybody ever needs, save for those that push cars in a way where they want that feedback that Z06 offers. If it was me, honestly, I would check out the E-Ray. I'm not even gonna lie to you, because I would look at this like, okay, I want to have the look of the C8. I want the power. Do I have to have the Z06 one, even though I'll lose a flat plane V8 beautiful song that it sings when you're in the high RPMs? But I do like the technology of the hybrid system and how it's operating with the standard V8. I get the visceral. I get some, George Jetson sounds in the speakers, they said, when the electric motor's on. But, the Jetsons plus a V8, I ain't mad. It's not bad. So I think the E-Ray is one of the greatest new cars that has come out. Now, I know it's not getting much news. I saw a few reviews and people are excited about it. I don't see it on the headlines as much as I would think it would be. I think the Z06 and the C8 in general has had enough hype and build up that now they're just kind of falling in line with the models. But I think the E-Ray is one that is going to be remembered even more once people get their hands on it. The Z06 is certified, right? Like we ain't got to talk about that anymore. That thing is certified. It's in the stone. It's in the scrolls. It's written on the walls. Okay. That thing is one of the best performing cars ever made. So we don't got to talk about that. We already know how that sits. But the E-Ray, on the other hand, the E-Ray offers in this really cool, like I said, grand touring, sports, high performance, hybrid, a little bit of electrical modes. And in this category, that price isn't bad. Now, I haven't gone on the configurator to, try one out and figure out what it looks like in different color combinations. I probably will after this podcast. I love, who doesn't like a configurator? Like, everybody likes playing around with them. Who hasn't been on a Porsche configurator and figured out that deviated stitching costs so much money? Like, I was like, I thought I had a $100,000, 911, not a $280,000 one. Like, what happened? So, the E-Ray's here. The Z06 is here. The C8 is, the new generation. We have the new Mustang out. The Camaro is dead. The Charger. The new Charger is coming. Now, there has been an image of it at the factory, the chassis, where they are showing that it won't just be an EV one like they've been showing all around with, the EV sounds that they're making with the, I say trumpet, but it's like some air compressed sound noise instrument that was coming up with the V8 sound. Like I said, many podcasts back. I didn't think it sounded terrible. I like the fact that they're at least trying to do something to give you something back, right? But they showed the chassis of what the Charger is coming up, and it basically has all the transmission tunnel and the space for it. I'll say this, right? If it has that Hurricane inline six, it's going to be a problem. Now, they said a new V8 is coming, but I think the real story here is going to be that Hurricane inline six. They already have a video of it running inside of the TRX, so you already know that if it's in a TRX and the previous one has 700 horsepower, then that means that this inline six Hurricane can handle the power in order to match. Dodge Ram is not about to allow the last TRX to be 700 horsepower supercharged V8, and then a new one come out with an inline six be less, unless they're charging less money. If they are, then it'll just be a model under the big brother. But I think it's the motor that can handle up to 700. And if it can do that, if it can get up to 6, you're talking about a incredibly robust inline 6, which means if it's in a Charger, manual, already turbo, what you think the aftermarket going to do? What do you think the aftermarket is going to do? They're going to take that and they're going to go ahead and get busy. E85, couple turbo upgrades and, exhaust. Listen, good times are ahead. With hybrid and electric, they are still performing and still producing cars that are truly exciting. Now, before I wrap this up, there was something that came to mind for me the other day. Like, I was looking through Instagram and they had the, what is it? The Weekfest. I say Weekfest. I follow the gentleman, Sticky Diljo. I got his books behind me on the shelf. And they hosted the Weekfest LA show. And every time I see this show in LA, it just reminds me how like LA is still kind of like the kingpin when it comes to car shows. And almost everybody goes out there to see the car show. They want to see the cars that are there and people, that are bringing their cars. Funny enough, there's a dude that I follow on Instagram who has a GR Corolla. His name is like Gremlin or something like that, right? I might throw his tag up there because I follow him. And I've seen his car. He lives near me because I've seen him on 99 driving up and down. But he has a dope car. And I follow him on Instagram. And he drove his or trailered it to California for the show. I probably would have drove mine, but I like road trips and I don't care about putting miles on the car because it's till the wheels fall off for me. But he has a black GR Corolla with red wheels. I wouldn't have picked red wheels at first, but until I saw his, and he has Advan TC4s lowered on like Fortune Auto. His car is extremely clean, really cool looking. I look forward to seeing what he's going to do for the GR Corolla moving forward. But the reason I mention this is because, like, where I live in Texas, I'm in Houston, Texas area. And where I live, we do get car shows, right? But Weekfest hasn't come here. I think this year they didn't come here. We don't really get Any of the shows you see in California, everybody that's here that goes to those events or go to the track events there, they all said the same thing, right? We love the car scene in California. I'm not moving there. I'm not trying to live in California again. But the car scene there is world renowned. It's the mecca for a lot of it, right? And so when you see shows like the Week Fest show and the quality of cars they have, I'm just like, dang, we need to have something like that here. Not that we haven't. There are plenty of groups that have come together in Texas when it comes to the import scene. I'm specifically talking about that have made and curated shows. A friend of mine has 5-Star Garage, and those guys came together for an event. High quality builds. There's people that got RX-7s that are amazing. Those dudes kind of stick together. See, what we get is we get a bunch of pockets, right? We don't have like a special space where these people can meet up. We have nightly meets like every Friday, every weekend. There's Neo Meets. I follow them. I went to their first, like kind of curated auto car show, which was very good as well. People are starting to try to get back to like the heyday, like the Mayday Garage days, the original Ricer Wednesdays by the OG Rice Box truck when it was a food truck. I used to live down the street, literally 2 blocks away. I used to drive over there or walk sometimes. And it would be cool to see this stuff start to come back. Now, the last time WeekFest was here, I remember the controversy of some of the cars that were there, because sometimes we can get a lot of like 20-footers, 20 feet away. They look good. You roll up, its body, they ain't lined up right. The wheels are curved. The wrap is peeling off. Wide body kit ain't done well. It's just like that can happen a lot, especially if you go to meets a lot. I've seen so many people that I followed in this city who've had dope cars. One dude that he's well known because his license plate says Munch. He had a LS, like a Celica Toyota that was fire. And he's like, I'm selling it. The meets aren't good. I'm sick of going to meets and being the same thing. And I'm like, dang, I've been hearing a lot of people say that. And what's happening is that I've gone to enough meets to know they ain't lying. You get a lot of young people. A lot of the friends, the people I met with the GR Corolla, they've said the same thing. There's enough in this city. I barely see these people. Like, I be trying to run around like, where are y'all at? They have not been around. But I understand it, right? A lot of people are older. They have families. They don't want to just be out with the young kids trying to do takeovers and dumb stuff at night. So a lot of what happens is our city is so big and the state is so big that everybody kind of sticks to their family and friends, which is cool. I understand it, right? If you got a high quality build, you put some money into it, you kind of want to not necessarily be out in the open. You don't know who's there. There's some privacy that you want to protect when it comes to like stuff you build. So I appreciate that and I understand it. But it would be really dope if we start getting to the point of having more shows here to showcase the cars and the builds that are in this state and in this city, because they're here. They're just hidden. It's so big that, like, for instance, right, my GR Corolla, I'm not the only one. I do not see any here, but if I go to our little Facebook page and people say, what city you in Texas? It's like 15, 20 in Houston, and we have never seen each other. Not at Cars and Coffee, not at the events, not at meets. I'm all over the place. You can't miss me because I'm tall, beard. I do this podcast. I'm on videos. So I'm bouncing around, seeing wherever stuff is at. But one day I would like there to be more of curated events. I have an idea in mind. I haven't gotten to it yet, right? My journey is a marathon, like Nipsey Hussle. The marathon continues. I have an idea for curated events, for curated spaces, truly, like really getting down to the depths of it. It's not just about having a meet and everybody being there. I think that there should be some level of discernment, right? I don't want to alienate people, but I think when it comes to some of the events that we have here, I don't necessarily need it to be come one, come all, right? There needs to be some discernment, some curation with what's going on. Inside of an event space, inside of a hangar, I've talked to a few people. I've seen a few open spaces, and I just asked randomly, like, what would it take to rent something like this? I know food because I'm a food person. I used to want to be a chef. I know where all the good food's at, who's making it, who can be there. Music, I make music, I produce beats. I understand what sounds good inside of a venue, what sounds good when people are there, what the vibe can be. It don't just have to be Travis Scott or EDM or something. There's a way to do this, right? Maybe one day, who knows? Listen, this CarQuicks journey is here for the long haul. So one day I'm going to be a part of some team curating some car event or some car show or something here because, listen, we have a big enough scene. And I'm more so involved with the import scene, right? I love domestics. I love muscle cars, but my heart's with the JDM scene. That's just where it's been. Now, my car is all stock, so I'm not really helping my case. And people are like, what's your car look like? It's all stock. Ain't got nothing on it. Listen, it's coming, right? SEMA's about to be here. I'm going to do some combination of JDM and, US-based companies for the parts I get. But it's coming, and when it does, I'm going to deliver, okay? I know how to build out a car that looks fire, and it will be done. And I'll be combining all things. I'm not a person that's like JDM and JDM only, right? I'm not about to spend $300 on an oil cap from June Racing. Listen, it's cool, awesome, great for those people that can do that. I ain't got it like that. So I'm not doing that, okay? We got to place, we got to, hedge our bets in certain places. But I'm waiting for these parts to come out for the GR Corolla so I can start doing that, start showing up and, start asking around. I might make a business card or something. I might really start pushing forward to see maybe I can grab. What I want to do is almost like a secret society if you ask me, right? My friend Elliot, owner of Liddy Shack. If you don't know, go to that, hand. I'm going to throw it up here on the screen, Liddy Shack Media. I've said to him too, I said, listen, I want to go around with like a card that's almost like mysterious and just start sticking it on like really dope looking cars and being like, listen, save this number or save this Instagram handle. And one day I'm going to tag you and say, it's go time. Show up here at this time for this event. I want to showcase you. Not even one that people necessarily have to pay for it. I mean, I'm not saying it don't cost a ton of money, but anything's possible if you put your mind to it. But basically showcase people, like say, hey, I'm showing off what you've done. Maybe there's a little bit of a registration fee because, this stuff be costing a grip. You got insurance things, all those type of stuff going on. But I'm looking at the East Coast was just hosted a show in Atlantic City at the Showboat that looked like it pulled straight out of Japan with, the parking garage setup. Fire. We got LA doing that. I'm sitting here in the middle like, what are we doing? What are we doing in this state? We got enough cars and enough people. We should be having some of the most fire events that are happening. We got mad land and space everywhere. I know it's blazing hot in the summer, so that doesn't help us. But listen, it's fall. It's going to be winter. It's going to be spring. And pretty much our fall and winter is mild. Perfect time to get this cracking. So we'll see what happens. What I do know is that I'm done here. And I'm going to be back. Glad for joining me. Listen, I got other episodes. Go join them. Like and subscribe to the channel. Subscribe to the podcast. Tell your friends. Tell your family. And again, as I say, do as you wish and do as you may. It's Cameron Biggs, your host. And this is CarQuicks. I'll see you around.